We'll get started. We'll get started momentarily. Let you get settled in. Welcome, everybody. Love seeing all the teachers who are joining us today. So excited you could be here with us today. While we're waiting to get started, if you would like to take a moment to let us know a little bit about yourself in the chat, we would love to see where you're joining us from. Let us know anything you'd like us to know. Where are you coming from? Where do you teach? Or how many years have you been teaching? Do you teach computer science? Or are you a different subject area teacher? And have you run an hour of code before? I know in our last webinar, we had a lot of brand new teachers to Hour of Code. So I was so excited to get to introduce this awesome event to so many new teachers. And even if it isn't your first one, we'd love to know how many have you done before? Have you done a CodeHS Hour of Code before? Whatever you'd like to share. Welcome, everybody. And we are recording today, so you will have access to this recording after the fact. All right, we'll go ahead and get started in a moment. I don't want to keep you too long. If you've been at a workshop with me before, you know I like to talk. When I get excited, I like to talk even more. So I'll try to keep myself on task and not get too far in the weeds with things that just make me really happy to talk about. So I'll go ahead and start by introducing myself. My name is Lori. I am a PD specialist here at CodeHS. I've been here for almost 3 years now. And prior to being here, I was in K-12 education for about 20 years. I was a district technology coordinator, high school computer science teacher, and I also got to do some middle school computer science, which ended up being one of my favorite groups of kids. I love the middle school kids, and I even got to go into the elementary and work with my elementary kiddos too. Did lots of coding clubs where I used a lot of Hour of Code type of activities as well. And I used CodeHS. So now I get to talk about CodeHS with other educators. And we have Lindsay with us today too, and she is going to be helping on the back end with all the questions and links and everything. And she's also going to help keep me on task. And that's a chore in itself. So thank you, Lindsay. Lindsay is another PD specialist here at CodeHS. And we'll get started shortly. Looks like we have a few introductions coming in. Welcome, everybody. Oh, cool. We have a first timer with CodeHS. I'm so excited for you to check this out. If anybody would like to keep tossing those intros in a chat, that would be great. Awesome. Ooh, Martin has never done an Hour of Code before. Very exciting. Oh, cool. Online and personalized learning department focused on math. I'm excited to show this to you today. Excellent. You can go ahead and keep those coming. I'm going to go ahead and move a couple of windows around just one more time, and then we'll get started for today. You will be able to grab the slides from today's webinar, and Lindsay will go ahead and, she has dropped those into chat for us. Oh, cool. I'm just looking at that link that you just tossed into chat. Awesome. I will have to try that. So automatically records any meeting and takes notes with AI. I will not click it right now, but I will click it later. And we'll take a look at that. I'm very curious to try it. So thanks for sharing that. Excellent. All right, so Lindsay has tossed those links or the slide links into chat. You may want to grab the slide links or the slide link right now if you would like. If you're in a place where you can grab those, there are going to be a ton of links that we share, but you will have access to this after the webinar also. So let's go ahead and get into our webinar for today. All right, so we're going to have a very packed time, and I've already talked too much, so I have to get myself back on track. All right, so we are going to talk what exactly is an Hour of Code. And then we're going to take a look at how to pick an Hour of Code tutorial from all of the tutorials that CodeHS has. I think you are going to love what you see with those tutorials. Then we're going to talk about how to run an Hour of Code. I'm going to show you a ton of resources that you can use in addition to those activities that we have for Hour of Code. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some other ways to engage your students. We actually do have some live Hour of Code events next week that might work with your schedule for your classes. They're definitely for students as well. And if not, we are going to be recording them. So we'll talk about that too. And as we go throughout our webinar today, if you've got questions, feel free to drop those maybe into the Q&A, I think might be the best spot. So where you saw the chat button, you'll also see an option to click on Q&A. And that's going to be a great place to ask any questions. If you'd like to have conversations in chat, absolutely, we encourage that. But if you've got questions, we want to make sure we don't miss those. So Lindsay's going to be keeping an eye on the Q&A for any questions you might have. Also, because this is a webinar, some of the other features are restricted, so you won't be able to unmute your mics and things like that. But please feel free to drop those questions, and we want to make sure we answer any questions you might have. All right, so first things first, if you are just joining us for the first time, you've never used CodeHS before, we would love it if you would take a moment to go ahead and sign up for a CodeHS educator account. It is completely free. You never have to pay for an educator account with us. So just browse to codehs.com/signup/teacher. Lindsay has tossed that into chat as well. It only takes a couple of moments to actually fill that out. And then we verify you. So you actually get all the solutions for all of our other courses and things like that. But it only takes a moment to sign up. And once you are a CodeHS educator, you are always a CodeHS educator. We just keep adding to our family of CS teachers. So we'd love to have you join. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our webinar for today. So what exactly is the Hour of Code? So Hour of Code is really a nationwide initiative, and it was started to introduce millions of students, all students around the world, to 1 hour of computer science and computer programming. And that has become really important because there are still so many schools that don't offer computer science or programming classes. And so many students don't know what computer science is, don't know what programming is, and they're really missing out on that. So Hour of Code was really designed to get kids access to computer science and get them excited about it and to have fun. I think that's the biggest part, is we want to have fun with this event. So this falls in line with Computer Science Education Week. And the goal of this week is to expose more of our students, K-12, to computer science with the Hour of Code activities. Really, we are trying to increase access to computer science, access to programming education, and really make this a more equitable playing field for our kids. So often what we see is, again, those kids that just don't have access to it. And when they don't have access to it, they're not going to know if this is something that they're going to really love. I know I didn't have very good access to it either when I was in high school, and I had no idea this was where my passion would be. And so we want to make sure we give more kids access to CS and let them share their voice and have them be heard with this amazing subject. So, fun fact about CS Ed Week, it is held every single year in December, and it's held during that week of Grace Hopper's birthday. You might be thinking, who is Grace Hopper? Grace Hopper is a computer scientist who actually is one of the first programmers on the Harvard Mark I computer, and amazing person. And so her birthday is on December 9th. And CS Ed Week this week is December 5th through the 11th, so next week. So we keep mentioning access and equity in computer science. And so what are we really talking about? Well, we want to make sure that kids can see themselves in the field of computer science or as a programmer in some realm of computer science. And often they don't picture themselves in this field. And so we want to make sure we're showing them role models that look like them. So we have, of course, Grace Hopper. We just talked about Grace. Clarence Ellis was another computer scientist who actually works out of, I think it's University of Colorado at Boulder. And he's worked on a ton of different projects. and also is one of the worked on the technique that actually created collaborative, real-time collaboration or collaborative editing of documents. Evelyn Boyd Granville is a mathematician and computer scientist who worked on some of the calculations for satellite launchings. And Miguel Diacaza is a Mexican-American programmer, and he has done some groundbreaking work with Linux, has worked with Microsoft, and has done some amazing things in the field of programming as well. So that's a little bit about what Hour of Code is. So now let's talk a little bit about picking an Hour of Code tutorial. So we're really going to be focusing in this webinar, of course, on the CodeHS tutorials. I've got a few of them listed here on this slide. You're going to see there's a ton of different ones to choose from. And we're actually going to go out and take a look at them by visiting this URL. And Lindsay will toss this into chat in just a moment. It's codehs.com/hour-of-code. You can actually get to it by going to codehs.com/HOC as well. And I'm going to go ahead and visit that page. This is what it looks like. Here's where all of our Hour of Code tutorials are. And you can see we can actually filter them. By the way, this is Carol the dog. It's Hacker Carol here. So that's one of my favorite versions of Carol the dog. I actually have a sweatshirt with that on it too, but just to explain who that was. And then we have some ways to filter all of these activities here. I'm just going to scroll through this list to show you what we have. We've got Hour of Code programming with Carol the dog. There's our Hacker Carol right there. We do have a Spanish version of this activity as well. And then we have an Hour of Code with graphics with Tracy the turtle. One of my favorites. I love the Python programming language, and this is such a fun, accessible way for kids to get excited about programming. We have a web design, digital art and pixels. So if you've got some kids who are really creative, or you know an art teacher who wants to bring in some coding, this is a great way to do that. Another Python, generating beats with code is one of my all-time favorites. Kids love this activity because they actually get to make beats. Then we've got generating art with code, coding in sports, Punnett squares, mathematical models. You can see we've got a lot here. This is one of the places I like to stop and say, these tutorials don't have to just focus on CS Ed Week. Of course, they are Hour of Code, so we think about CS Ed Week, but you can also think about maybe bringing in some coding into other parts of your classes as well. I know we've got some math teachers with us. We have a lot of math activities that you could integrate as well. So tons of different activities here. Creating virtual worlds is so much fun. React Native, mobile apps, tons and tons of stuff here. Let me see. Oh, Pi Day, of course. And we even have some unplugged activities. So let's say you don't have enough computers for all of your students, but you want them to do Hour of Code. This is going to be a great way to do that with these unplugged activities, because really computer science is not always about screen time. It's about problem solving and computational thinking. And we don't have to be in front of a computer to do that. So we have these unplugged activities as well. And if I take a look a little lower, you'll even see we have some elementary Hour of Codes as well. We have an upper elementary and a lower elementary program now. Super cool. A couple of other things that I wanted to show you here. I'm going to scroll back up to the top. And again, I can filter by high school, middle school, interdisciplinary, new, intermediate, advanced, beginner, because all of them are leveled for the appropriate level that your kids are at. So we have lots of beginners. Then we have some intermediate and advanced as well. And I will say, even if you've got some kids who are more advanced, but you need to start your kids at that beginner level, that's okay, because those kids can always expand on what they do during that time. There's some great ways to do that with Hour of Code. So one thing that I did want to show you here, and I don't know why it's, oh, there we go, just had mouse over it. I think Zoom is messing with my view just a little bit. A couple of things I wanted to show you. There is a lesson plan for every single Hour of Code activity. And when you click on that, it's going to take you to the lesson plan or the teacher guide. So every Hour of Code activity comes with a lesson plan. And this is going to have some really great resources on it for ways to actually run the hour of code. We don't want to just give you the activity and say, all right, go for it. You can figure it out now all by yourself. You've got a lesson plan to follow. And the really nice part is if you don't have experience with with coding, notice we've got exercise solutions. Now, many of the solutions that you'll see, or many of the tutorials that you'll see, will be very open-ended. They might have different types of solutions or different solutions kids can come up with, but you'll still have some possible solutions here. And so you're definitely not left just hanging without any solution at all. So those are the teacher guides. All of the activities come with the teacher guides too. Let's see. All right, we'll come back to any questions in a little bit. All right. There's our unplugged. And when you're thinking about hour of code, there's a few ways that you can actually implement an hour of code at your school. Now, the most common probably is this level 1 that you see on the screen, where a CS teacher or a teacher, I should change that terminology, because really it can be any teacher, will lead an hour of code with their classes. So you might just be introducing a new language. Maybe you're going to try a new type of project. But this is basically what you're doing. You're just doing this with your class. And this is probably one of the most common that we see. Level 2 is where you host an hour of code for non-CS students. So maybe this is a larger implementation where you're organizing a department-wide hour of code, maybe for your math department, maybe for social studies. I actually used to be an English teacher a lifetime ago, long before I ever got into even being a technology coordinator at my school district. And one of my favorite things to do was to figure out how to integrate computer science and programming into our ELA courses. So this is another implementation you might see, a little bigger. And then with level 3, you might see where you want to run a school-wide hour of code. This is an awesome undertaking. You definitely would want to get your admin on board with this as well. But this is a great time to really show your community what coding is, why computer science is important, and really get some spotlight on hour of code and bringing computer science to your school district. So we do have a chart here that talks about choosing the right hour of code tutorial. So we do have a link, and Lindsay tossed that into chat for this chart. And this might help you if you're thinking, okay, there's so many hour of codes, which one should I pick? This one is going to show you the ones that are appropriate for different grade levels. And then the level of experience up here on the top. So if you're just starting, maybe you're starting with your 7th graders and you think, well, what would be best for them? I can see that with no coding experience, my 7th graders could do anything with Carol, Tracy the turtle, maybe coding in music, art, or sports. Those would all be great for them. So this is going to be a great way to take a look at the different hour of codes and decide on the right one for you. All right, so let's talk about preparing to run an hour of code. So we've taken a look at all of those hour of codes that we've seen so far that are available for CodeHS. Let's talk about what do we do now. So I'm going to drop this in here one more time, because if you don't have an account, we would love for you to go ahead and sign up for one. If you have any issues signing up, don't hesitate to let us know, and we can definitely reach out to you after the webinar to make sure you get signed up. And as you're thinking about hour of code, know that you do not have to have a CodeHS account to do our hour of codes or to participate in our hour of codes. All of these are available logged out. It looks like I'm logged in right now, but if your students do not have an account, they can absolutely participate without. Now, if you are a CodeHS educator, there's a couple of ways that you can do this. And this is definitely a recommended way that I would suggest to do an hour of code. So if you have a CodeHS account, your students have CodeHS accounts, you could create a section in the platform and enroll your students, or you could assign the hour of code activity to an existing section. So what do I mean by that? If I come back over to the Hour of Code page, I can click on any of the assign buttons that I see to the right of any of these tutorials. So let's say I want to do Hour of Code graphics with Tracy the Turtle. I can click assign, and it's going to open up the whole list of all of the courses and sections that I already have in my CodeHS Educator account. And I can choose which one of these I want to assign it to. Let's say I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to assign it to something, and it'll let me return to Hour of Code home or go to this course. And that's all it takes. Now, if you're not a CodeHS teacher and you don't have any sections, you might be thinking, well, what is that, Lori? You don't have to have a section. You can absolutely have students without a CodeHS account browse to that same link you all did, codehs.com/hour of code, and they can click on Start Course, or they can click on the direct links to the activity you've chosen. So they can browse to this page and they can go to Start Course. So if you want your students to do Programming with Carol the Dog, they can click on Start Course. And I'm just going to click on it. It's going to take me just a moment since I'm on Zoom, and this will go faster at your school for you. And it's going to start by opening up this tutorial for me. I so should have done this before I got on Zoom, Lindsay. We'll just let it think about what it's doing for a moment. I apologize for the little delay that it's taking there. And students can actually go through that Hour of Code directly from this page by clicking on Start Course. The one caveat that you will need to make sure to share with students is that their progress will not be saved if they don't have an account. So if they want to save their progress, they must have an account, and then it will save. Otherwise, once they get in here, they'll see a video, and then down at the bottom, you'll see all these gray circles, the activity bubbles. As they progress through each of these activities, they will need to copy and paste any code they want to save, because it will not save if they don't have an account. But small little thing, but we want to make sure your kids don't lose their activities. So a couple of ways to do that. And if you're looking for that direct link, you can find that in the teacher guide. See, during the Hour of Code, direct students to, and it will give you the link here. This one happens to be the link for the Carol, the Intro to Programming with Carol the Dog one that I just clicked on. The second option, so that's a really good question. Will the second option allow for monitoring of students? So if students do not have an account, you will not be able to go back in and see what they are working on after they've done it. So that is a really important thing to keep in mind. So, and you know, if you'd like more information about how to create accounts with students, or maybe how to set up a quick section, we will definitely share those links with you at the end, and can help you do that. So a few things that you're going to need. Definitely have your kids bring in some headphones, or have some extra headphones or earbuds that you can maybe hand out that day. So this is going to be important. What you will see here are things like videos. These do have sound, and so you will want to keep that in mind. So, and there's a lot of different ways to run these. Often teachers will start by watching a video together with their students, but as students start working, they might want to go back and rewatch these. So headphones are a must. If you're doing one of the music, Hour of Code tutorials, or the generating beats, you will definitely want it. There will be so many beats happening. You don't want to hear them all at once, so definitely get those earbuds ready to go. If you're doing an activity like React Native mobile apps or apps with JavaScript, these are apps, or these are tutorials that will actually let kids create simple apps. And in order to view those on their phone, they will need a phone available. So that's something, you know, depending on your classroom policies or your school policies, you may or may not be able to have that. If you do, or if you can allow students to have their phone, They will want to download the Expo app before they do either the React Native mobile apps or the apps with JavaScript. We also have a sample intro slide deck. And actually, I'm going to jump to this one. There we go. I forgot to take my extra slide out because I updated the slide deck. So there we go. A sample intro slide deck. And so this is going to be a great way for you to introduce the hour of code. And you can get to this slide deck by browsing to codehs.com/HOC_teacher_slides. And Lindsay has dropped that into chat for you. You will have view access to this, but feel free to make a copy and this can be yours to use. And you will want to complete the hour of code tutorial before your event. You definitely want to take the time to go through the tutorial you've chosen to make sure you see any gotchas that you might experience and just have an idea for what your kids are going to be doing. So you can absolutely go through any of these that you like as the teacher. Now, one of the questions that I get often is, which hour of code should I choose from? Well, you can choose from any of them, really. You can definitely look at, let me just get back to that real quick. You can definitely look at that chart that gives you some guidance about which one to choose. But keep in mind, all of them are leveled. All of them might have different interest levels. And depending on what you teach, you might want to choose something that's different from what you're teaching or something that complements what you're teaching. So definitely take a look at those and check out which one might be most exciting for you and your kids. And we often get asked too, should I choose 1 hour of code for my entire class to go through, or should I let kids pick one? Often I recommend that you'll want to choose 1 hour of code for your students to go through. I have seen where teachers will let kids choose their own. It can get a little bit crazy at that point, and a little tougher to keep up. So I would still recommend choose an hour of code activity for your kids. And then don't forget about those lesson plans and teacher guides. So remember, when you're at codehs.com/HOC/hour of code, you can get to any of those lesson plans by simply clicking on the link to the right. You're also going to find some nice discussion questions in the lesson plans. So you'll find some that you can use before you get started with the class. You can find some that you can use once you're wrapping up the hour of code too. I think this is such a great way to really start get kids thinking about how coding can be something that they do, how it can be relevant to their life and what they want to do outside of school. This is a great way for them to see that. So getting some discussion questions going, getting them thinking about the activity and how coding impacts them is a great option. Also check to see if your hour of code activity has a handout. Many of them will, and I don't recall if, I don't think this one does. So the intro to the one with Carol the dog does not have a handout, but I do know that the one with Tracy the turtle does. And the reason for that is because it is very graphic. You can actually see it here. And having this grid paper to actually draw out a design before kids start creating that design is going to be really helpful. I know I was one of those kids that needed to draw something out before I could create it. And so this is going to be something great for them. So you'll want to see if there is a handout and if it's something you should print off beforehand. And don't forget that the solutions are on the teacher guides. You notice I've got solutions in quotes. That's because many of these are very open-ended. The one for Tracy, the turtle, the graphics program has kids creating a letter. Well, I didn't want to just create any letter, so I wrote my name. And so that's often what you're going to see kids do as well. But it's still very nice to have those solutions in front of you. So make sure you grab the teacher guide so you've got those solutions handy. And also, as you're going through the hour of code activities, you're going to see all those videos that are available. Something to think about as you go through the activities, and of course I just got out of that one, but as you go through those activities, you might want to think about, how do you want to run your hour of code? Do you want to have kids watch videos on their own? Do you want to have them come together as a whole class and watch them as a group? Or do you want to do a little mix with that? But keep that in mind as you're thinking about how to run your hour of code. And when you're in the platform, there's a few things that kids can actually do here as well. So they can go to our Docs tab in the platform while they're doing the Hour of Code tutorial, and this is going to give them additional help. Teachers, you also have access to this Docs tab as well. And this is where you can go to find more help. So if you're not sure about the language you've chosen, or maybe you've never worked with the AI stuff or the virtual worlds and things like that, you've got help in the Docs tab too. And you can always share the URL. So that way you can actually share their activity afterwards. It's another good reason to have accounts. This is going to be a great way for kids to share what they've done. So some other tips and tricks. Allow students to work at their own pace. I would definitely give them at least that 45 minutes to complete the tutorial. Some will want more than that. And what's great is if they do have accounts, they can come back and keep working on it. This can absolutely spur a lot of creativity for some. As they start to ask questions and they're not sure about how to maybe do something in the way they want to do it, ask some problem-solving questions. Don't feel like you have to give them the answer. It's okay that you don't know the answer. I can guarantee you I did not know most of the answers. We had to figure it out together. So ask those problem-solving questions. Encourage collaboration. This is going to be a great way to really have them work on their collaborative skills and have them work with their peers. And another reason why you might want to pick the same hour of code. They can all work on the same thing. Pause during your class for clarification, discussion, things like that. And don't forget to share out at the end. Do a gallery walk, have a share out, have them share out their links so other people can see it. This is a great way to celebrate their success. And that's what this is about. No matter where they get in these tutorials, we want to celebrate their success. We want them to have fun with this. This should be a fun activity. So other ways to engage with your students during CS Ed Week. We have several live events going on all next week. So you can see all of these on this slide here. You can actually view all of these at codehs.com/HOC_resources. I think we have it at another link too, but we've got a few links you can get to this at. But you can see we have a ton of different live events, and these are actual live Hour of Code events. So you can register yourself and your entire class for any of these. We have guest speakers, I think at almost all of them, if not all of them. And then we have time for your kids to actually do Hour of Code with us, with a team member from CodeHS. So on December 5th, we have Generating Art with Code. This one is for middle and high school. On December 6th, another one for middle and high school. We have Coding and Music. And then we have Design a Drawing App with Scratch. And that's on the 6th. And that one is for upper elementary. And Creating Virtual Worlds on the 7th for middle and high school. That one is so fun. That one's a little bit tougher level. It's more at the intermediate level, but it is a blast. Then we have Turtle Graphics on the 8th for middle and high school, and a lower elementary one for Program a Story in Scratch Junior. And I do believe all of those will be recorded. So if that does not work for you for your time, they will be recorded. You could always use them with your students later. We have a ton of different resources here. These are all of our Hour of Code resources. Again, you can see the Hour of Code tutorials at this link. And we've got the HOC resources. This is where you can go to register for those live events. You can choose a tutorial here. This is that chart. You can get a teacher guide, an admin guide, a parent guide. Coding in the Wild is a really cool blog that we have. As students are thinking about how does coding apply to what I want to do? Maybe we have somebody who wants to go into fashion. You can actually see there's a blog here about coding for smart manufacturing and fashion AI, coding for grassroots organizing, coding for vehicles, coding for a digital nonprofit. This is an awesome career website. This is definitely something I point out to teachers all the time. I know as a former CTE teacher, this is something I definitely use. And if you've got questions at all, our support team is amazing for how fast they are. So definitely reach out to support@codehs.com/support at any time. and they will be awesome with helping you with any of your questions about getting ready for Hour of Code. You can also reach them, maybe, there we go, took a minute to load. But if you're in the platform, you can see a little chat bubble in the bottom right corner. And if you click that, this is a great way to actually send them a message. You can send your message here. You can search for solutions here and get all the news you need. Notice our usual reply time, under 10 minutes. They are so fast. And I went over a little, yes, I did go over, because why wouldn't I? Lindsay's laughing at me. She said, yep, Lori always goes over. But that is what we have for you today. Does anybody have any remaining questions? You might have some questions. You might be thinking, oh, I don't know, Lori. If you've got any questions we can help you with right now, we're happy to. And if not, you can always reach out to support at any time. All right. Lindsay, was there anything I missed? Excellent. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so very much for attending our Hour of Code webinar, how to run an Hour of Code webinar. Don't hesitate to let us know if you do have questions. We absolutely want to make sure you have the best Hour of Code event you can possibly have. We want this to be fun for you and your students. And know that once you're a CodeHS educator, you're always a part of our family. So thank you for joining us today. If your kids create something really cool, reach out to us. We want to see what they do. Send us those links and let your kids know that you're going to share with the CodeHS team. We love seeing what our students do with CodeHS. Thank you so much, everybody. If you are interested in seeing more CodeHS workshops, you can always see those at codehs.com/freepd, or sign up for an HOC workshop next week. We would love to see you there. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you soon.